Someone's gonna say,
Yeah.
I want an open one that has like the rock wall on.
What's going on? Don't worry.
So many.
You still have a plan?
Okay, I think I will bring us back into public session. So consider us back into public session. And also for the record, we are now streaming in 4K. So you're smiling, you're on candid camera. Thank you all to the many people, the employees in the township that made this possible. It was a lot of work for a lot of people over a lot of time. And hopefully today everything is working well. So if somebody wants to check on their phone to see if we're on our streaming YouTube, we're good? I hear we're good. Excellent. So for the public, can I have the clerk call the roll again, please?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Here.
Mayor Chiarello.
I am here. Will the chief lead us in our salute to the flag today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. As I'd mentioned before, people from Sparta have been coming into places like this for 175 years or more to celebrate and do other things, but today we celebrate, and we have a number of things to celebrate today. First, we'll get us started with a recognition of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so I will read the following proclamation into the record. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a complex and ongoing problem in our society, affecting many children in Sussex County. And whereas every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, nurtured, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect. And whereas child abuse and neglect not only directly harm children, but also increase the likelihood of criminal behavior, substance abuse, health problems, and risky behavior. And whereas the effects of child abuse are felt by communities as a whole and need to be addressed by the community, the entire community. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among families, social services agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Council of the Township of Sparta does hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and calls upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, therefore preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. And now I will turn this over to Chief McCarrick.
Have members of our prosecutor's office come up here, please. Thank you all again. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Manager Rome. Tonight, I'm here on behalf of the Township of Sparta to present a proclamation, as our mayor just did, for Child Abuse Prevention Month. We have with us tonight members from our Sussex County Prosecutor's Office, High Tech Crimes Unit, and Sex Assault Unit, led by County Chief Detectives Chief McCormick. These units are made up of highly trained professionals, which include assistant prosecutors and detectives. So every day, these individuals go to work investigating and prosecuting unimaginable crimes. Crimes that many of us don't have the slightest idea can occur. And if we do not know about them, none of us can figure out why. Why would anyone want to hurt a child? These crimes that require swift action, investigation, and arrest. These are the ones that we will not rest when investigating. And these crimes are against our children. I say our children because when a child suffers, we all feel it. Many of us here tonight are mothers and fathers. We can't even bear the thought of something or someone harming our children. Unfortunately, these crimes do occur. And as mothers and fathers, educators, professionals, we do our part to protect our children as best as we can. The protection comes from educating each other, educating our children, being involved, teaching our children the many values that mothers and fathers set by example for their children every day. And most importantly, support and love. Spending most of my career in investigations, I unfortunately had to see firsthand children victimized by some of these unthinkable acts. Unfortunately, when investigating crimes against children, I always had a team of investigators and prosecutors working right beside myself, my other detectives, at a moment's notice. The men and women here with us tonight are constantly behind the scenes working hard to keep our children safe. They possess the highly trained skills to further an investigation and again prosecute offenders. Some of the various day-to-day operations that members from our prosecutor's office conduct are investigating the distribution and possession of child pornography, investigating solicitation of minors online using proactive and reactive methods, conducting internet safety presentations to teach minors the risks associated with online solicitation, educating minors about cyberbullying, which reduces teen self-harming behavior, formation of county-wide high-tech crime, internet crimes against children task force, which is trained in digital evidence recovery and analysis, as well as investigation. Additionally, they provide an array of technical support and expertise to our local and surrounding law enforcement agencies throughout the entire county involving technology. This is accomplished by using the following: conducting digital evidence recovery and analysis on electronic evidence involved in criminal activity, providing training to local law enforcement officers on technology, equipment, and online investigation. Assist local law enforcement with preparing and obtaining proper legal documents on criminal investigations, on digital crime investigations, and providing local law enforcement agencies with equipment and personnel to assist with criminal investigations. The county prosecutor's office doesn't just stop at a county level with investigations. They have and will continue to work side by side with state, federal, and even international agencies. I am proud to stand here tonight speaking about some of these unsung heroes amongst our law enforcement partners. These men and women truly care for the well-being of our children and improve it by their unwavering efforts every day. So on behalf of the Township of Sparta, I would like to thank Chief McCormick and his team here for their tireless efforts in keeping our children safe and the fight and continue to keep our children safe every day. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Chief, we're ready to move. Oh, we're ready to move.
Got it? Okay. So you move in the back. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
very
you
much,
for what
all
you
of you.
do.
Appreciate it.
My
Thank you.
wife was on Jenny's house, the board, for years and years, and then, I mean, I have friends in the DA's office, and invariably they tell me the hardest unit is always the child crimes unit. And they'll do major crimes, they'll do homicides, it's the child crimes that usually nets out the prosecutors because it's just so egregious, and I just applaud and thank you, because I know it's hard work, I know it's, emotionally taxing on you and your families, but the town of Sparta is just so grateful for you, and thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks again. Okay. Do you want to go ahead?
So I have the honor this evening of reading the proclamation supporting Donate Life Month. So I'll go ahead and read it, and then I'll come down and we can give it out, just so everyone at home can hear what I'm reading. Whereas realizing the urgent need for organ and tissue donors across the country, the National Donate Life Month observance promotes a greater understanding about the life-saving benefits of donation and transplantation. Moreover, the need is increasing. New Jersey Sharing Network is committed to addressing that need through increased awareness, and whereas the transplantation of organs and tissue is a miracle of modern medicine made possible through the compassion of organ and tissue donors, enabling surgeons to save thousands of lives every year. One organ donor can save 8 lives, and one tissue donor can restore health to over 75 others. People of all ages, ethnic backgrounds, and religions are touched by donation and by the serious shortage of organ donors that currently exists. Currently, there are nearly 4,000 New Jersey residents and over 104,000 Americans awaiting life-saving transplant operations. And whereas every capable person should support this vital effort by registering as an organ and tissue donor, making their family aware of their wishes, and being willing to give the precious gift of health, sight, and life to people in need. And whereas registering as an organ and tissue donor at a local motor vehicle agency or online at www.newjerseysharingnetwork.org signifies our fundamental human responsibility and passion to help others. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Council of the Township of Sparta does hereby proclaim April as Donate Life Month and urges all citizens to consider becoming an organ donor and join forces to boost the number of organ, eye, and tissue donors throughout the county of Sussex and the state of New Jersey. And with that said, I'd love to call up Kelly Bonventure, and I know you have some guests, Kelly, so if you want to have them all come on up.
Our newest and youngest member.
Wow.
So Kelly, on behalf of all of us, we are so grateful for all of the work that you have done and all the lives that are touched through everything that you do. You are probably one of the most passionate, compassionate, dedicated, committed members of the community that I've had the pleasure of working with. And it's an honor and privilege to have been here with you from the beginning when you first started decorating, putting up the ribbons, and you started lighting up the building. And I think that is your efforts in bringing that message forward have really increased, the results of what we've seen. So I'm going to, on behalf of the council and an extremely grateful community, I'm going to hand you this proclamation, and then I'm going to turn the floor to you and to your guests.
I'm gonna give this to. So thank you so much to the council. As Chris said, it has been 7 years in a row now that you have supported our efforts. So I'm Kelly Bonventure. I am the manager of community services for the New Jersey Sharing Network. We are the federally designated organ procurement organization for the state of New Jersey, which basically means we save and enhance lives through organ and tissue donation. We manage and facilitate all aspects of disease donation. And it's the council's efforts and support and events such as this that really help us to raise awareness. And awareness is key to us saving more lives. As Chris mentioned in the proclamation, there are 100,000 people waiting for life-saving transplants in the United States, 4,000 people waiting right here in New Jersey. And unfortunately, we lose 17 people a day while waiting. The organs does not meet the demand. Only 1% of all deaths will result in somebody being able to give the gift of life through organ donation. In order for someone to be an organ donor, they must pass away in a hospital and they must pass away on a ventilator. If they do not, they're an automatic rule out for organ donation. And I see the shocked and surprised faces, and most people don't know that. That is really what culls down those numbers very quickly. So we have 100,000 people waiting and a very small pool of eligible donors. So we really appreciate the township's support, the community support, and the efforts have really paid off. I can tell you that for the 4th consecutive year, we have had more lives saved than ever before. Our work just shows us that the more people are educated, the more people will say yes. So we had in 2022, 283 organ donors, the most organ donors we've ever had in our 35-year history. And we had 670 organs transplanted. 670 lives were saved, which is truly amazing. The Sharing Network, we realized that for every life that was saved, a life was lost. And we honor those donors and we honor and support those donor families at the highest level possible. And I'm joined here tonight by members of our Sussex Flora Donate Life Group, who all happen to be Sparta residents. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and just explain what their connection to the nation is.
I'm Jennifer Bloom. This is my husband Tom and my mom Jane. And my dad was saved by 2015. He has since passed away, but we had 18 months with him that we never would have had it not been for our donor Andrew.
My name is Roberta Bernie Noble. My husband Doug, his skin was a transplant offering, and according to what Kelly just said, 75 different people, children, whatever, was needing skin transplants.
Betsy was the love of my life. She passed away 12 years ago. She became an organ and tissue donor. And I carry her with me wherever I go.
My name is Alice Benatnabehi. In 1988, I was at Sparta Pope John High School freshman, and maybe stop where I can't even remember. But I went through the Sparta school system, and I lived here. And I had a life-saving organ transplant of an heart and double lung transplant of an ambulance donor. I'm so grateful to the Township of Sparta because they came to my home on many occasions throughout my being a transplant. My 2 sisters passed away waiting for organ transplants. When I say 35 years, the testament that organs do save lives, and I still live in Sparta. I will never leave this township because what Sparta represents is community, love, kindness, warmth, celebration, and have this proclamation given to donate life month. It really means so much, and I'm really honored to be standing in front of you and to donate. Thank you.
And happy 35th anniversary.
So thank you all so much for taking the time to share your stories. Thank you, Kelly, for all your time for this work. And if anyone is interested, you can go to the website or make that change. I know you inspired us in my family to do it as well. And it's something that we really hadn't thought about with the whirlwind, and I think it was what, 12 years ago when you came. That night we were all at home, and changed everything. So I mean, I think awareness is critical, and seeing, when you can see the results of and understand the impact, it's amazing. So thank you for coming back, and hopefully we will see you again next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just one question. I had the same reaction last year when you told us about the requirement that you have to be on a ventilator. Has it ever been suggested that people in like a living will put that in their actually living will? So if God forbid you are in the hospital, there is that provision in your living will. So please keep me on a ventilator because I am an organ donor and I want to make sure that my organs can be, legally transferred. Is that something that you would recommend to people if they want to be an organ donor? Make sure they put that maybe in a living will or something like that?
Absolutely. There's very standard language that they wish to make an anatomical gift, and that would signify that they wish to be an organ donor. They can do it in the living will, on advance directive. But we also stress and share is that tell your family what your wishes are. At the darkest moment of their life, when they're suffering a huge, terrible loss, for them not to know what their loved one's wishes are And for the family to have to make a decision they're not sure of, just adds to their pain and adds to their burden. Whereas if they know what their loved one's wishes are, they're in a position to honor that wish and honor their last wish. So we always recommend that they can register on your driver's license, on the website. Living will, anatomical gift is a beautiful way to do it. Thank you,
Okay,
Neil.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Picture, but when you guys go outside, you'll see downtown is lit up again with the colors of donating for like in honor of everything.
And the ribbons are up too, right?
Oh, picture.
Yeah. One second. Thank you.
And I do want to thank you for wearing blue and green tonight. I'm sure that-
You got the memo. Yeah.
And I will just close by saying that without the organ donor, there is no story, no hope, no transplant. But when there is an organ donor, life springs from death. The terrible loss becomes a beautiful gift, and sorrow turns to hope. So we thank you for making that hope possible and those beautiful gifts possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Kelly.
Thank you for the signage as well on the monitor. I appreciate that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, good evening. Our third and final proclamation of tonight is about Earth Day. Whereas the first Earth Day was proclaimed in 1970 in order to foster public awareness of the need to protect the environment and conserve resources. And this year marks the 52nd anniversary of the Earth Day movement. And let it be known that the City of Sparta, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey encourages all businesses, institutions, organizations, and individuals to celebrate the earth and our environment and to commit to caring for it. Whereas all people across all demographics have a right to enjoy a healthy, sustainable environment with economic growth and opportunity, and whereas we are all caretakers of our collective community, national, international environments, and have an obligation to do our part to preserve their beauty and resources. And whereas it is important that we collectively come together within Sparta Township and beyond and be mindful, aware, and engaged in community cleanup, maintenance, and sustainability initiatives. And whereas the celebration of Earth Day in Sparta Township seeks to encourage all of its citizens to seek ways to improve their local environment and become more aware and engaged in efforts to sustain the same. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township Council of the Township of Sparta does hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2023 as Earth Day and encourages all residents to honor this observance with the appropriate activities and programs. Is Kara here? Ms. Johnson, if you could come up, please.
Unfortunately, they're all on spring break. All my students now. Yeah. From this environmental commission.
So, first of all, I've been involved in the Environmental Commission for 3 or 4 years now, and I've seen firsthand the passion that our residents have for protecting our environment and natural resources. And I've spoken to so many people, residents, over a number of years, that one of the special things they love about living in Sparta, you don't want to take it for granted, but is the natural beauty, the resources, the wildlife, the trees, the fresh air. Thank you for teaching and supporting and encouraging the future youth to help protect our future. Appreciate it.
Birthday celebration on Saturday, the 22nd, right in front of Town Hall. We're teaming up the Sparta Middle School and Green Team and the Sparta Environmental Commission are teaming up to put on, to have different exhibitors from the county. We have different demos and We had animals coming and different activities for kids, so it's not for everyone.
I should also mention, sorry, to introduce you, you are a middle school teacher, Cara Johnson from Sparta here, leads the Green Club.
Yeah.
And actually, you have a number of events planned in the week leading up to Earth Day.
Yeah, so next week, we're gonna be lit up green in front of the town hall again, for the whole week for celebration. And if you have children, you probably received the blurb coming out and all of, from all the Sparta public schools. But we'll be having different activities throughout the week, especially at the middle school. We'll spread to all of you.
Exactly, thank you. And can you introduce,
This is my son, Alexander. He helped me with all the different things, especially for birthday preparation next week.
excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the February 28, 2023 regular meeting minutes as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes held on February 28th, 2023.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have one or two additions I'd like to propose, a correction and an addition. So the correction is on page 4, line 1. There's a comment about the Environmental Commission and the two pieces of hardware that were going to be coming in soon. And it currently states that the chairperson had conveyed that to me. And I believe that I had said it was the Environmental Commission's secretary that had conveyed that information.
Okay.
And then also, the second point is at the bottom of page 4, where the introduction of ordinance 23-04 begins. I would like to make a motion that the minutes be amended to include several additional key points from that discussion that I had made regarding, this is in regards to the salt shed and bond. And I think the summary points should be added to encapsulate the scope of my comments on this important topic. I think the overriding objective of the meeting minutes is that in the future, anyone from the public, anyone can actually pick up the minutes and understand fairly what the whole discussion entailed and what concerns were raised without being verbatim, of course. So there are several points that I had made that I think round out the sentiment of my comments from that evening.
Dean, would it be feasible to include, I think the comments that you're referring to came from what you read that night, correct? The letter? They were, a lot of those comments that you were making referred back to comments that were in the letter from the Environmental Commission?
Some of them did.
So would it make sense also that we, if we're going to amend the minutes, that we put that in as an attachment so that people understand that? Or would it be enough? I mean, I'm fine if you want to roll it back and then, you know, have the updates, but the minutes, I understand the minutes usually are not a transcript line by line by line.
Yeah.
But maybe we could put that attachment with it. That would solve the problem, referring back to the sentiment of the environmental. If not, if you want more significant changes made, then we're going to have to we're going to have to table it, which is fine, and go back and bring it back another week. Which is fine. I'm just
Yeah,
putting out
yeah,
options.
two different ways to approach it.
So I think we can agree that the minor change you made earlier can be adopted, right? Just to make that one correction? Can we sort of bifurcate the changes?
We can bifurcate them. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's deal with that. So do you want to, so you made a motion to, or actually you suggested, do you want to make a motion to make the correction on page 4?
Yes, I'll make a motion to correct page 4, line 1, changing the word from chairperson to secretary.
Excellent. May I have a second? Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion on that point? All those in favor of that change to the correction, that change to the meeting minutes that we just outlined? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Okay, we'll make that one change. And then for the second part of the change, I guess I agree with Councilwoman Quinn's options of referencing and attaching the letter from the Environmental Commission, or B, circulating to the council maybe a bulleted list of the points that you wanted to add, and I'll leave it up to you as which you feel is better, more appropriate. I think either will require us to table this for now and consider those changes.
Yeah, I'm comfortable attaching the Environmental Commission report as an option.
So if we would just then, we would not be amending the minutes other than what we just voted on, other than the fact that the Environmental Commission letter would then be attached, and it would say "see attached"
Is that
for reference.
proper?
Well, we can, as we just did, make a motion, second, and we'll attach that letter.
Okay,
Is that
perfect.
all?
Yeah, would the minutes, the body of the minutes reference that attachment?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the February 28th, 2023 minutes, page 4, where it begins, or the section discussing the introduction of ordinance 23-04, makes a note to reference the attached Environmental Commission report that was sent to the council on the same topic.
And the letter indeed is attached.
Yes, and it's attached.
And that letter was presented at the February 28th? Okay.
Yep.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Excellent. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, that
Now we can
changes.
move to
Now we'll move
adopt the minutes as amended.
May I have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended?
I move we adopt the minutes of February 28th, 2023 as amended.
Excellent. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, the minutes are approved as amended. Thank you. Will the acting town manager please submit or read the manager's report?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. First off, I'd like to thank Mike Dempsey on the updating of the equipment in the council chambers to allow live streaming and recording the meetings, as well as assisting and educating the employees in the use of the new system. The Public Works Department completed the project in installing 25-foot parking light posts in front of Freedom Field. The fixtures are efficient using LED and also have photocell light controls sensors, maximizing their ability to keep the area lighted and safe during the sundown hours. This project was a great collaboration effort between the staff and both departments. And money was saved by not outsourcing. I encourage everybody to stop by and check them out at the field. Parks and Rec, the spring and summer program activity brochure has been released. Registration opens to residents tomorrow, April 12th. The Bunny Breakfast was a big success on Saturday, April 1st. Over 100 children plus their parents attended, which included pictures with the bunny as well as enjoyed the petting zoo pony rides after the weather was cleared. The park staff has finished most of the preparations and the fields opening earlier than anticipated due to the cooperating weather. Recreation staff are trying to accommodate a large amount of field requests and pavilion rental requests that have started. Utility Department, as the replacement of the bridge over the Wallkill River project continues, Sparta Utility has been successfully supplying water to the town of Newton with minimal impact to the water system. The Celia Drive Water Lift Station, Pump Station has been completed and is fully operational. And as a reminder, the Township Free Rabies Clinic will be held on Saturday, April 22nd, from 1:30 to 3 p.m. for dogs and from 3 to 4 p.m. for cats at our Public Works facility at 15 Prices Lane in Sparta. For more information on any of the above topics, go to www.spartanj.org. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the manager's report as read?
I move that we accept the manager's report.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Okay, the manager's report is accepted.
And just thank you to the members of the community who live streamed this while we did not have the streaming facility. We appreciate what you've done on behalf of the town so that they could see it live. And I guess we put you out of a job, but I'm sure you're happy to be unemployed in that respect. And thank you, Mr. Dempsey, for getting it done. I really appreciate it. I know the town appreciates it, so thank you.
Thank you.
And just one question. Sam, what's the ETA on the bridge repair? When are they thinking that will be done? Do we know?
They were saying possibly up to 8 weeks from the time they started at one point. Unfortunately, with all the equipment, it's hard to see the progress. I have to probably go around and look from the other side, but they have been working steady. I know that, so.
Thank you.
Again, the different phases there obviously is the footbridge is going to be removed. They have to take care of the water lines underneath and the sewer lines underneath, and that'd probably be the most extensive portion of it.
So it's 8 weeks in the phases, but it's not going to be done in 8 weeks. We don't want to set an unrealistic expectation. It'll be done in phases, so you'll see the barricades, then they'll come down, then you'll see them, then they'll come down. And I believe, Sam, if I'm correct, but we should confirm, I thought they said it could be up till the end of the year until everything was completed.
Fully
all the
completed,
phases,
yeah.
right.
The biggest part of it is the traffic portion of it, and then, the add-ons like the footbridge and stuff like that that possibly is going to be, I think, from the plans I see, could possibly be connected to the existing, but just have a barrier between.
Excellent, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public for any items not on the agenda. Okay, seeing no one from the public step forward, move on to the expenditures. Will the deputy mayor please make a motion to approve our expenditures?
I make a motion that we approve the bill list totals by fund, which is attached, dated April 11th, 2023, in the amount of $2,348,091.24.
Excellent. May I have a second to approve those expenditures?
I'll second it.
Excellent. Any discussion on the expenditures?
Yes, I have 2 questions. The first question is on the first item, page 1. It's for a roadway asset inventory project for $13,676. Just like to understand, I'm curious just what the roadway asset inventory project is.
Basically, it's the evaluation of the streets and roads to, determine exactly which ones prioritized need to be repaired. And, that's basically what it does. It just tells us basically what the life of the road is and which one needs to be repaired sooner than the other ones.
Okay. Is it annual?
Periodically.
Periodically.
Yeah, he does it periodically to see if anything has changed so that, maybe a road that was scheduled to be paved maybe 2 years from now, well, there was a deterioration, now it's got to be moved up to be done this year. Just to evaluate the process to make sure that, all the roads are decent shape.
Okay.
And again, basically with part of this plan, we're at the point now where just about every road in the township has been paved within at least a 10-year period. We have approximately, I believe, 104 miles of roads that are township-owned in the township. And that's a pretty phenomenal feat. We're doing probably at least 10 miles of road each year.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my questions.
Excellent. Any other questions on the expenditures? May I have a motion to approve the expenditures? Actually, I already did that. All those in favor of approving the expenditures, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? All right, the expenditures are considered approved. We have two ordinances to introduce, or three? One, two. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 23-03?
Amending the code of the Township of Sparta respecting the display of flag.
Excellent. May I have a motion to introduce the ordinance as read?
I have a motion to include the changes that I submitted to everyone 2 weeks ago.
Okay, let's first introduce it and then second it so that motion can be formally introduced and then you can introduce amendments. So is there a motion to introduce the ordinance as was read?
I'll make a motion that we introduce the ordinance as read, 2303.
Excellent. May I have a second?
Second, motion to introduce.
Okay, any comments or amendments? Councilwoman Quinn?
So I had sent out, right after the meeting that we had, 8 recommendations for this ordinance in order to have it be more protective and try to put a little bit more to it. And I believe everyone, I know everyone on this council and the manager, everyone up here has a copy of what I had sent out. I sent it by email. So there were 8 recommendations that I had, but in reviewing what we have out here tonight, I just want to ask some clarifying questions as well. I know we had said that the flags were to be like certain sizes, right? It was the American flag was the largest, then the New Jersey flag, and I looked in here, and on section A, number 4, it says flags cannot be larger than 4 by 6. The commemorative flags cannot be more than 4 by 6, but the POW flag that we have now is 3 by 5. So we're gonna have the POW flag be bigger to accommodate, I'm just saying the sizes don't match up. So that's under purpose. So it's page 3, A4. My other question was, and then I'll get into the ones that I had recommended. Only a Sparta resident or an organization domiciled in Sparta. So isn't that included as a third party? Wouldn't that be a third party? Because the ordinance later reads no third party. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with itself.
I believe the question is directed to me that a third party would be somebody who would ask on behalf of a resident or of an organization domiciled. And so what we're saying here is that a Sparta resident or an organization from Sparta must make the request directly.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Okay, I mean, I just wanted to make sure, okay. And then also, so I'll go to the 8 recommendations that I had made. We agreed that the resident, you had to be a resident, but in order to just be sure, I think we should have some paperwork or form or something that is available to Roxanne, so we're not just fielding endless emails that are coming in from everywhere. I think that we need to streamline that process, and it should be documented into somehow what that is, So in other words, if it's an online form or if people are going to be able to come into you, Roxanne, there needs to be some kind of form, but I think that process needs to be outlined in here. The other thing is, my understanding is, right now, we only have, the ordinance should only reflect the flag at town hall because we don't have infrastructure at other places. So I think we should just tighten the ordinance up to say it will be at town hall because we don't have the infrastructure anywhere else. I think that we also need to be mindful, based on the amount of requests that we've received so far for flags, that I know that we sort of left it open-ended to say as a time period that's reasonable. But I think in order to have to accommodate all the requests that we're getting, it's going to have to be almost a week. Or, I mean, if you did a week, you only can accommodate 4 in a month. I think we should put some kind of time on it, because otherwise, if you give a whole month, then you're going to have to say no to other people. And what we're trying to do on behalf of the taxpayers is to not incur any kind of lawsuits because we tell people no. So I just think we need to be mindful. We've already received, I'm aware of about 10 requests that we've already received, 3 of which alone are in June. So, and we're going to have the same problem in, I think it was May. So that was one other recommendation. The other thing is we can remove the reference to school or team flags, or at least team flags, because I did check with the local high schools. They don't have individual team flags. So I don't think there are any team flags to go up there. Flags of other countries, I'm not exactly sure what that would actually be, but I think we need to be mindful of the fact that we are directly across the street from the VFW. The servicemen and women that are protecting America. So putting up another country's flag, I think we need to really be mindful of that. So I would like to see that removed. I think that we need to put something into the ordinance that makes it clear for us and a way for us to be able to protect the community in saying that we are not going to even entertain a request for any kind of flag that is going to invite any kind of violence or anything like that into our community, because I think that's a slippery slope, and we need to be able to say no. So I think that's got to be addressed. It's got to be safety first. And I'm still very uncomfortable with this term government speech. I am really uncomfortable. I don't think the government should be speaking. I've already made my point clear. So my last recommendation was please remove reference to government speech in this ordinance, because I think that the government should not be speaking for anyone, and it definitely shouldn't be speaking for people as they're playing in playgrounds and different things of that nature. And I think that it's important to note also, when looking at the ordinance, we have to be mindful of the fact that this ordinance is going to remain until such time, once this is introduced, it will remain until such time. It might not be these council members here, right? This could be here it will be here indefinitely once it's adopted. So we just need to be mindful of putting stopgaps and different things into it so that it cannot be used for the wrong purposes moving forward, because there is no guarantee you will have the same people here. Most likely you will not moving forward. So those are my recommendations. I had hoped to be able to have this discussion ironed out before we got here, so that we could have went to the public, presented to the public, United Front. But I guess this is I'm asking that this ordinance be updated to reflect this, and also that we put in the 2 other things that I mentioned before, the logistics, that there's some kind of process so people know what's going on and how to do this, and also that the size of the flags, we're clear on that, because if organizations are going to have to go out and buy flags, we don't want them buying the wrong size. Okay, that's.
So my understanding is
Where
that
I'm at.
you made a motion to make the amendments that you just outlined.
Yes,
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Is there discussion on that?
Only if it's seconded, then we can discuss and then vote.
If you want to discuss it, then you should probably second.
Okay. Hearing no second, then that motion will not be advanced. Any other discussion or amendments? Councilwoman Quinn?
Other than the 10 that I just gave, no.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anybody else want to offer anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that while the policy does suggest no flags larger than 4 by 6, the next requirement is that all commemorative flags must be smaller in size than the American flag, the New Jersey state flag, and the POW/MAI flag that is displayed. So that does supersede a reference to a flag size. Also, I have to admit, the first time I read this and I saw that permitted flags included the flags of governments recognized by the United States, I was a little unsure. But I do recognize that there are times where our country does wish to support other nations. And this was clarified and cemented when I noticed, rightfully so, that the VFW does have a Ukraine flag up, which is wonderful. I'm fully in support of that. So I think that there are times, special times, where it is appropriate, unique circumstances where we may wish to do that and maybe follow the lead of the VFW or other entities.
I can expand on that a little bit. Not only did we light the columns in the colors of the Ukraine flag at the start of the conflict, but also we lit the columns in the colors of the Ecuadorian flag when our own Sparta resident competed in the Olympics under the flag of Ecuador, and we had a celebration in the front, and that was part of that celebration. And you can continue. Anything?
That's it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Clark, any comments?
No comments, thank you.
I have no comment either, okay. So at that said, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2303 as presented? I'm sorry, we already approved it and seconded. Okay, so now we're going to vote to approve or to introduce the ordinance. So will the clerk please read the roll? Call for the vote.
Councilman Blumetti,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
I cannot support this the way it's written. No.
Mayor Chiarello,
Yes, the ordinance is introduced. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 23-10?
municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Hello, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance 23-10 as read?
I'll make a motion to introduce 23-10 as read.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Blumetti,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Mayor Chiarello,
Yes. Ordinance 23-10 is introduced. Now we have 5 ordinances up for hearing and final adoption. So will the clerk please read the title of the first ordinance up for hearing, 23-05?
an ordinance amending Township of Sparta Code Sections 9-14.s and 20-3.6 regarding water and sewer and capital connection fees.
Thank you. May I have a motion to introduce the ordinance as read?
Make a motion that we introduce.
I'm sorry, we're not introducing. I apologize. We're going to adopt the ordinance as read.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2305 as read.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Excellent. Is there any discussion on ordinance 23-05? Oh, any discussion for the public on ordinance 23-05? Thank you. Seeing no one from the public, I bring it to the dais. Is there any discussion from the dais on ordinance 23-05? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Blumetti.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Chiarella.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 23-06?
Amending Chapter 2, Article 11, taxation of the Sparta Town ordinance of the Township of Sparta, new section 2-62, 100% disabled veteran tax refund.
Excellent. May I have a motion to adopt the ordinance as read, as introduced?
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance 2306 as read.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second the motion.
And the ordinance is on the table. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to discuss ordinance 23-07 or 06? Seeing no one, anything, discussion from the dais on ordinance 23-06? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Blumetti.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Chiarella.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 23-07?
An ordinance granting a permanent, non-exclusive bridge easement over a portion of block 27004, lot 2, on the official tax map of the Township of Sparta to the County of Sussex.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-07?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion from the public on ordinance 23-07? Seeing no one, any discussion from the dais on 23-07? Hearing nothing, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Blumetti.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Chiarella.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 23-08?
An ordinance granting a permanent, non-exclusive water main easement over a portion of block 27004, lot 2, on the official tax map of the Township of Sparta, the Town of Newton.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt the ordinance as introduced?
Make a motion, we adopt the ordinance as read.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the public on ordinance 23-08? Seeing no one, any discussion from the dais on ordinance 23-08? Seeing nothing, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Blumetti.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Chiarella.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. And the hits keep coming. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 23-09?
Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Departments created, Section 2-18, 4.h, classifications of applicants and order of appointment thereof in the municipal code of the Township of Sparta.
Excellent. May I have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the public on ordinance 23-09? Seeing none, any discussion from the dais on ordinance 23-09? Seeing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Blumetti.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Chiarella.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. I would like it to open up to the public for any questions or comments on any of the resolutions, resolutions 9-1 through 9-7 that are included in tonight's agenda. Seeing no one, may I have, is there any, before I introduce them, is there any discussion on any resolutions, or is there any special requests on any resolutions 9-1 through 9-7?
Yes, I'd like to either carve out or have a question on 9-3.
Okay. Go ahead. Do you have a question on 9-3? Or actually, we'll just carve it out for us. Or do you have a question that we can adjudicate, or do you want to carve it out for a separate vote?
Let's go with the discussion for now.
Okay.
Just, so 9-3, resolution authorizing private sale and assignment of tax sale certificate for for Block 4001, Lot 37 to Woodbine Capital LLC. My only questions on this, were there other bidders on this? And also,
Any tax sale item automatically goes out for bid. If nobody bids on it, then the township holds the lien. In this case, somebody is interested in the property, so they come in and basically they are willing to take the lien off of our hands.
do you recall if there were multiple bidders? Did they bid down on this one at all?
Well, every time we have a tax sale, there are multiple bidders.
There are multiple, okay.
Right. We actually do our tax sales online now, and it's a lot easier, and we don't have oodles and oodles of cash to count at the end of the day, because everything is done through online bids.
Is there any downside to the township long-term from doing this kind of?
No, because we're getting the money in to pay for the taxes. You basically got to figure that to run the town, to run the school, to run the county, we have to raise X amount of dollars each year. And the way we raise that dollars is on the value of all the properties. So the more properties that people are paying us taxes for, the more money we have to pay the county, pay the school, pay us, pay our employees.
Do we often see these go into foreclosure or?
Basically, when they go into foreclosure, if it's a third party, we're not, that's not on us, and they still have to pay the taxes.
They're not buying the property, they're just
Right.
buying the tax
If
title.
we have to assume the lien and assume the property, then it behooves us to sell as much property as possible. Because again, if we own the property, nobody's paying the taxes.
Right. If it does go to foreclosure, does that purchaser, that bidder then have first rights to that property?
If it goes to foreclosure, they can assume their lien up until the time it actually, I believe it goes to foreclosure.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure if there's an estoppel period that the original owner could do it, but a lot of times, like if we were to take a piece of property, we can't foreclose on the property for a period of at least 18 months by the time you go through all of the notices and everything else.
Okay. That's it. Thanks for clarifying.
Any other questions on the resolutions, Councilman?
I think were we gonna carve out, or table resolution 9.5?
Sure. Can you make a motion to,
I make a
Table
motion
it?
that we table resolution 9.5.
excellent. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, 9-5 will be tabled for tonight. Is there anyone else has any other questions or comments on any of the resolutions? Excluding 9-5?
Just a question on 9.2 is the introduction of the municipal budget. Am I right that the budget will, after the introduction of this this passage of the resolution, the budget will be available to the public?
Yes, it'll be available. We will have copies here as well as, one of the first things I'll do tomorrow is have Mr. Dempsey post it up online.
Great, thank you.
Are you comfortable giving us an elevator speech on the budget for this year that's being introduced, or not at this time? Just a couple of lines?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
So basically this year, our total budget appropriations will be $29,600,123.03. Last year, our total appropriations with some additional state grants that we received was $30,272,158.48. So our budget is actually less this year by $672,035.45, or a 2.22% decrease. Again, if more grants will are to come along sometime within the year, because we've been very lucky at getting some grants within the last couple of years, they will be included in the budget through a resolution process at that time. As far as tax rate goes, basically, we were able to maintain the same municipal tax rate that we had last year. So there's 0% on the municipal increase. At this time, I haven't got the firm figures from the school board. I'm anticipating at least a 2%, although I believe it'll probably go higher. One thing you have to remember with the school board is once the figures actually come in, if they're, let's say, like a 5% increase, well, we would still have the amount of the increase from last year because the school works on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. So we basically would take from June to January, that is one half. And then if they do an increase of, let's say, 5% on their budget, that 5% would hit us the second half. So actually, we're only going to anticipate 2.5% of that increase through the end of the year. But hopefully by that time, they should have their tax forms filed probably sometime within the next couple of weeks, which they have to submit to the clerk's office. At that time, I'll be able to put their actual budget figures into my calculations. And I also, anticipated at least a 2% increase on the county budget. Hopefully, I will be able to find their budget online and be able to calculate out exactly what their increase would be. And I do that basically just by taking last year's budget, this year's budget, and multiplying out the percentage. Usually it's pretty accurate, so hopefully by the time the budget is adopted, I should have pretty close to the exact tax increase due to the county and the schools.
So Sam, just to eliminate confusion, I think last year we had a little bit of confusion around where the budget's going to be posted. So it'll be in the finance section, correct? Or will there be a certain link on the main page to a place called budget? Or, because I think in past years, we put it under finance, but people didn't think to look there. So I'm thinking maybe on the main page, we should put a special link that says the budget so that people don't have a problem.
Yeah, that's
finding
possible. I'm
it.
sure we can accommodate that with no problem. Right, Mike?
And then the other thing is the breakdown of the tax rate. So these numbers are always good for everyone to know. And Sam, if I'm not
I'll
being
also have a
honest,
copy of my handout, which I think we have some available up on the dais there. Basically, it's pie charts and graphs, simple and easy, and it basically shows you the percentage of the budget, percentage of different departments, what we're paying. So basically, just as a quick on this, if you take a dollar bill, well, 64 cents on that dollar bill goes to the school board. 18 cents of that dollar bill goes to the county, and the remaining amount is ours. So basically, right now, this year, I'm projecting the county will surpass the amount that we pay in municipal tax by probably $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, somewhere in there. So the township is the smallest portion of your tax bill. So every 17 cents on your dollar comes back to the township, and all the rest of your dollar goes every place else.
There's library and open space, but the big ones, yeah, where there's.
1%,
Yeah, the library is very small. It's, it's a very small part of the budget. I think the total budget that we're required to pay to the library this year is $1.3 million.
Excellent. And this is the 6th year in a row of zero?
This,
Eighth
well,
year?
this is, since 2016, we've maintained the same tax rate within a fraction of a penny here or there.
That is excellent management, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. I think that's something that a lot of people within the township, every year when I say, how much money out of the dollar do you think the municipality takes? The flip side of that is, although you guys have done excellent work, again, keeping us flat, when people get the tax bill, it's not flat, and we're the first ones that get the phone call. So please, this information will be online. Jenny, please help us get the word out. Again, I know
We're
sometimes
just
we
a
do a little
collection agency.
graphic, but yeah.
We're just passing it on down the line.
No, I mean, even though we stay flat, the bill will go up, but we're trying, and thank you for all your hard work. And please pass it on also to all the department heads as well.
Okay.
Another great job.
Thanks for introducing it for us.
Thanks, Sam.
I have a question on 9-6. Do we know what the Station Road Improvement Project is? Like in a nutshell?
It's just an application for the pavement, repaving of
It's just
Station
repavement.
Road, from a DOT grant.
Okay, so it's just pavement.
And the way the DOT grants are usually rated is, they do a traffic study and, rate how busy the roads are. So that's like, it'll be a lot of our connecting roads that usually get the DOT grants. I think we did like Tomahawk Trail the one year. It's usually the roads that are like a crossroad between a county road and a state road or.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any more questions on any of the resolutions? 9-1 through 9-7, excluding 9-5? Excellent. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, 9-4, 9-6, and 9-7?
I'll make a motion to approve those resolutions.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Nope, those resolutions are approved. Council liaison updates. I'll start with Councilman Blumetti.
So Environmental Commission, there were no scheduled meetings since our last town council meeting, but I just wanted to highlight two items. First is the Environmental Commission applied for a small grant for open space stewardship. And this is through ANJEC, which is the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions. It's a small grant to get some work started. The focus, if we receive the grant, would be Sparta Glen and plantings, doing seedlings, doing small trees, trying to start replacing the trees that had to be taken down, the ash trees. So we'll stay hopeful that grant will come through. Second item, as was mentioned earlier by our middle school teacher, Cara Johnson, just wanted to highlight once again, next Saturday on Earth Day, the 22nd, is the Earth Day Community Fair, the event here in front of Town Hall on the lawn, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. There'll be exhibitors, food, kids' crafts, book story readings, some music, and other fun activities. So please show up. And it has an educational bent to it also, so hopefully we'll be able to share some knowledge. Thank you.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor Clark?
No liaison updates to provide. There has not been a meeting of the groups of which I am a liaison since the last meeting.
Okay, excellent. Councilwoman Quinn?
So again, just to thank the rec department for the bunny breakfast. I'm really upset I couldn't go this year. It was my husband's birthday, but they had an overwhelming turnout. It's back to the way it was before COVID with the petting zoo and with all the things. And I want to just shout out very quickly, not only to the members of our staff in the Parks and Rec Department, but also to all the volunteers from the Recreation Advisory Committee, as well as the community who came out to assist. With regard to Salute 07871, we're super excited. The orders for the banners are going in. The 2023 order will go in on Friday. We've had different communications with Sam. We're all set to go with those. Extra hardware has been ordered, and we're very excited to announce the expansion of our Hometown Heroes banners into Lake Mohawk Plaza and up Winona Parkway. And we think it's really great because also that's where the parade is. And it's super exciting that now we will be able to hang 30 more banners, because as I told Jim Zepp, we're running out of poles very quickly. Glad to find out we put more in Station Park. I'll have to take a look at those and see if the frames fit. But yeah, we're really doing well with that campaign. We have a lot to be excited about there. And it's nice to bring the township and Lake Mohawk together. And I think it's really going to add something special to the parade route moving forward. So we are expecting and hoping that those banners will come in before Memorial Day. That is when the Hometown Heroes will be hung for the first time. My understanding is that they will go up before Memorial Day and they will stay up till after July 4th, so that we can accommodate both parades, both holidays, and celebrate our servicemen and women appropriately. So anyone who put an order in after April 1st, your orders will go in the 2024 orders. We only do them once a year now. So please be mindful of that. And if anyone needs additional information, you can have them reach out to either Commander Litchfield or myself or Vanessa Serrano. We could point them in the right direction. The senior meeting is happening on the 15th, so I will be planning to attend that this week. And that's all that I have right now for updates.
Excellent, thank you. As for myself, the Cultural Affairs Committee met last week. I believe there is one open weekend to fill. I think we had one cancellation, but the team didn't seem concerned about getting a replacement. And they're now looking out, starting to reach out to donors. So if you're interested in donating to the Sparta Arts, keeping the free rock going, they would be very grateful. The library board meets tomorrow. And I think there's no other update from the health committee that we didn't already talk about the last meeting. So that's my committee report. We do have a few items from unfinished business. The first one concerns a vacancy on the zoning board. There's an alternative two, I think it is actually. So I would like to make a motion to, or actually, I think Deputy Mayor Clark would like to make the motion. Make an appointment.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Landon Tanieri as one of the alternates on the zoning board. I met Landon probably 6 months ago, and he is, what he lacks in age, he makes up in intelligence and hard work. He came to me because he has been a big advocate of converting. We have about 50 miles of abandoned rail line in Sussex County. And Landon has basically mapped all that out. He's made a presentation before the county. He has done a lot of the legwork. Landon is also an honor roll student at Sparta High School. He's also one of the national qualifiers for the DECA presentation. He's a remarkable young man, and I think he shows initiative. He shows he cares for his community, and I think the zoning board can really benefit from someone with that pluck and tenacity, and frankly, his youth and perspective can be valuable. So I, resoundingly nominate Landon for an alternate vacancy on the zoning board.
Excellent, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that nomination for Landon Tanieri. Also, just to echo what Deputy Mayor Clark has said, I've met him on a few occasions, most recently at the Environmental Commission meeting where he presented his draft outline for the open space plan, for trying to make some usable, local, walkable trails from the rail trails that are existing today. And just his approach and looking at what he's done already. And he also has an interest in, once he moves forward in this kind of subject matter, so land use, zoning, and all that. So I think he'd be a tremendous addition, so I second that.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, or let's make a roll call vote, please, for the approval of Lyndon Tenary as an alternate vacancy on the zoning board.
Councilman Blumetti,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Mayor Chiarello.
Yes. So welcome, Landon.
Is there only one in your email? I thought you said there were two
2
vacancies.
on the zoning board?
Mhm.
No, there was only one. We filled one a couple of weeks ago.
No, with Anne, right?
Kate Madison.
Kate Madison it was on the zoning board.
Okay, so I had recommended Anne LaRouche as well, and LaPouche as well, and
Okay.
what happened with that? That was the one that was being tabled until we could figure out if she was interested, and she did say that she was interested.
Okay. Did you want to make a motion? You had an opportunity to make a motion to
Well,
nominate her.
that's why I'm confused. Your email said there were 2 vacancies, but there's 1 vacancy. So
I don't believe my email
that's
said
what I'm
2
trying to
vacancies unless I
clarify.
made a mistake.
I think a few weeks back, there was one that said 2 vacancies, but I think that was, one of them was filled with an appointment with Kate Madison.
I'm just trying to figure out how
No,
many
it's
we
just-
actually have. So Kate Matson got the seat over Anne?
I suppose there was, we had vacancy of alternate 1, and that was filled by Kate Madison. Now we had vacancy for alternate 2, and this is now Landon Tenary. Okay, the Economic Development Committee, we're going to table that discussion at the request of Councilman Hertzberg, who was not able to attend with us tonight. Next, on unfinished business is an update on the manager search from Steve Levinson, who's, should we table that? I didn't actually sign the contract yet. So should we table it for another day?
You can still get a report.
Okay. All right, I see Mr. Levinson here. Thank you for joining us tonight. This might be the first time I'm meeting you in person, so.
On the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Pleasure to meet everybody in person.
Thank you for coming here.
I guess now, obviously, the contract hasn't been signed yet, so we haven't started doing any work.
Sure, so I would just maybe just briefly lay out
Describe to you
the process.
about my history very quickly and the process. Is that okay?
That would be fair, thank you.
Okay. I actually calculated before I came here tonight and realized that I've been working in government, either in it or for it, for actually 48 years. I didn't think I was that old, but I guess I am. So.
Steve, can I just stop you for 1 second? Can you pull the microphone down so that people, it's our first
Can you hear-
online
is this
meeting,
better?
I just want to make
Can you
sure
hear me?
people can
Okay.
hear you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
that's a good call.
So essentially, I've worked for municipal government, started in '76. I worked for county government as consulting. I've worked for the Department of Health as a consultant. I have my licenses are, I'm a registered environmental health specialist. I'm a licensed public health officer. I have a master's certification in public management. And I've been around the horn for a number of years. I spent some time in Sparta. I had the luxury of meeting a lot of good people here and working in Sparta. And I have a good handle on the chemistry of the personnel. It's been a good experience for me working with Sparta and really enjoyed it. Essentially, the process that I've used in the past and I've used pretty much continually is it's a collaborative process. I'm not doing the work for you, I'm doing the work with you. I work with your staff. I essentially will be working with your network, I'll be working with your manager and the administrative secretary and any other personnel that would be involved in the process that Sam would think would be appropriate. Essentially, the process would involve refining the criteria, which we generally have written in the past, but would refine it. We probably would get some input from mayor and council regarding any additional criteria that they might want to see in those standards. And then once that was done, we would go through a process of advertising. Initially, I would work through the New Jersey League of Municipalities because there are 564 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. So the pool of people you're looking for is fairly limited. and using other media like LinkedIn, et cetera, would bring in a plethora, many of which would be unqualified applicants. So initially, the net would be small, focusing on qualified individuals. And if in fact we didn't see the response we would like, which I don't think would be the case, we could always expand the net at that point. Once we would receive the applicants and vet them, and the vetting process initially would be fairly simple with the ones that just don't meet any of the qualifications. And then once you get down to the qualified candidates, at that point, I would be actually doing the vetting between the contacts I've had in the field and the networking that I've developed over the years, would be able to follow up with their references, et cetera. And once we narrow that down to a small group, and we can decide what that number might be, whether it's a half dozen or whatever, at that point in time, I would, send the information to the council, and I'll be interacting with the mayor in that process as well as the manager, because this is a mayor-council appointment. And so our work is to get you the best candidates that you can attract. And I think Sparta is a beautiful community. It's an attractive community. It's a relatively affluent community and progressive community. So I would think, and I haven't had this problem in the past with recruitment with Sparta, but the whole idea is to get the best possible candidate that we can. The other part of this, from my perspective, is chemistry. You can look on paper and you can see who's better qualified on paper, but there's more than just paper qualifications. It's interaction, it's public communication skills, it's that type of chemistry that you really try to get a handle on. And that's why it's so important to have your staff involved in the initial screening process, so that when it comes in front of the governing body, which will ultimately make that decision, you'll feel comfortable that at least there's some level of comfort with the candidates that you'll have to select from at that point. That's generally the process that I've used in the past and has worked fairly well. And again, I look forward to working with Sparta and the professional staff. It's always a pleasure for me to be involved with you guys, and it's also a pleasure to see the new faces that I haven't met before and some of the old faces that I hadn't seen in a while. So. Do you have any questions about the process, or?
Actually, well, go ahead, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, so I just wanted to say thank you for coming in here tonight. I guess my one question that I had, first thing that popped into my mind is that, would you consider candidates that do not have previous experience in this direct role as who had previously been a township manager? And I guess maybe that's a leading question, because I would encourage you to not limit people who've only had that experience.
Generally, I think what we'll wind up doing is sitting down with yourself. This is not me, this is us, right? So I would sit down with the mayor, and if you have a small group,
Yeah, it wouldn't just be me, but
breaking a quorum, whatever
Yeah.
you prefer to do, we can sit down and discuss that. Generally, my personal preference is to attract people that have municipal experience in that capacity, and also not only, but within the state of New Jersey, because the rules and regulations are different from state to state. So having individuals that have New Jersey experience is, in my opinion, the best way to go. It doesn't preclude the fact that you may have very smart, intelligent, capable people that don't have that experience, but that ultimately is your decision. So what I would say is that the other part of the process is that's why I say it's collaborative. As we set these criteria, that type of inputs is really important, because I'm not the one that's going to set the ultimate criteria. It's your decision. So if I get direction saying, look, we want to expand it to include a wider net, we can, and I'll give you my input. Ultimately, you'll make the decision as to what you choose to do.
Thanks. And just to be clear, by experience, I meant experience solely in that position. Like, for example, our previous acting township manager had no prior experience as a township manager, but had a degree in township administration and had many years of experience in the administration itself. And so I think that qualified that person well for the job. And so I guess my point is I would not limit to just somebody who had been a township manager in some other town before.
well, you can rest assured that the protocols will be developed collectively.
Excellent,
So you'll
thank
be
you.
part of that process.
Any other comments from the dais?
Can you give us a sense of timeframes and also any challenges you foresee with our situation in terms of
Well,
the market right now?
I don't see there's no conspicuous constraint that I see at this point in time. I think the issues in terms of time frame would be that I would, this is my stream of consciousness speaking now, but my thinking is that before the end of this month, in the next couple of weeks essentially, that I would be sitting down with the mayor and maybe the township manager to discuss the criteria that we want to incorporate in the advertisement. And then the advertisement, let's say with a couple of weeks, we can get that together. And then the next couple of weeks, we'll be actually placing an ad on the website of the New Jersey League of Municipalities, which would start the resume process coming in. And we would have to establish a timeframe in terms of how long we want to allot for the resumes to come in once it's announced. Also, I think they still have a hard copy journal that they put out aside from the website posting of municipal jobs. So we may also want to make sure that it gets in that hard copy posting. So, the timing of when you can get those ads in, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check. But from a time perspective, those are issues I can't tell you off the top of my head, but we would try to get that ad in, say, after a couple of weeks we develop it. We get that in the League magazine as soon as possible. We could post it on the League site as soon as possible within a couple of weeks, hopefully. And then leaving, we may, as we discussed with the mayor and with the manager, we may want to leave, 4 weeks to get the resumes in because you want to really attract a large pool of qualified candidates. And then, then you figure, after the 4 weeks is up for collecting the resumes, then there'll be a review process where I don't know how many we'll receive. If we receive 40 or 50 resumes, which is not unrealistic, we would, I would scan through that, eliminate the ones that don't meet the minimum criteria that are established by the mayor, et cetera, in committee with Sam. And then at that point, my vetting process would start. It would be contacting the references, and then speaking to individuals that I know are in the field that may have worked with these individuals. And then at that point, that vetting process, waiting for people to return your calls and get back to you, sometimes they're reluctant to, that takes as long as we're willing to allow it to happen. If they don't respond fairly quickly, or we don't get responses quickly, we may say, look, we'll bypass that individual. So that's something I'll work with the mayor and the manager on in terms of how long they want to wait on that. But, the process, if it goes well, and I tend to think it's an attractive position, that the process could be maybe 2 to 3 months, and it really, again, I'm only projecting and they're unknowns, and I can't, obviously, there's no guarantee with that. It just depends on how it unfolds. And so, that's to give you some concept of the process and what I'm thinking. And, it'll be a very interesting process. And again, a big part of this is when you sit down in the room and you're looking these candidates in the eye and you're asking them questions and you're getting a feeling for how they interact, how they communicate. And at that stage, you'll get a sense of a feel for what you can't tell on a resume. And, some people interview really well and maybe don't work as well in the interview. So that's where the vetting process will come into play in terms of kind of, feeling that process out. So that's essentially how the process would work. It's a work in progress, and that's how I see it proceeding.
So going back to your collaboration statements around collaboration, a couple times I noticed that you said you were going to be meeting with the mayor and coming up with the criteria, but I'm assuming, because we're not a strong mayor form of government, that each one of us would have, whether you have a form or you're going to be asking us for emails or something, that all 5 of us are going to be included in coming up with what that criteria is. Because that's not, because of the fact that this, I know.
Yeah.
But I just want to be clear that all 5 of us are going to be included in the process when it comes to coming up with the criteria.
My response is, I think that's a great suggestion. I don't control that. So I can't tell Sparta Township how to proceed with this. I certainly think that's an excellent way to proceed because you really want to make sure that the interaction is with the governing body. So I think that's an excellent recommendation, but I can't, it's not for me to determine how you want to proceed with this. I'm here to facilitate what the council chooses to do, mayor and council choose to do.
And we will
So-
certainly solicit input from everybody on the council.
I think that's an
adhere
excellent,
for the criteria.
excellent process. So that's all I can say. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions or suggestions or?
I think, I mean, just on the surface, Sparta is a very attractive town. It has very good financial standing. There's a lot of good assets in Sparta. I think there'll be no shortage of people that will want to, that would be interested in this position. So I think, as you agree with it, this should probably move pretty quickly.
I'm hoping it will, and I anticipate that it will, but I'm sure that we'll make that happen as quickly as we can.
Excellent.
Right?
And just one thing, I mean, again, pulling from people that have been in a managerial role or some kind of administrative role within the state is usually key because the accounting system and New Jersey's setup of the way the government's run is completely unique from any other state. I mean, even the accounting system alone, it's basically what they call an ACWA accounting system, which means other comprehensive basis of accounting. So that's not even standard with what they teach anybody that goes to college and takes governmental accounting. New Jersey's is unique from that and completely different. So that's why it's very important to pull from that pool, somebody that's had experience in New Jersey, rather than bringing somebody in from another state that really doesn't understand the way that New Jersey works.
Thank you, Steve, for.
Question on your, thank you. It's good to actually meet you in person. And I just had a couple questions. And you've worked with Sparta Township before, am I right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And you're familiar with the personnel, is that correct?
Very familiar.
Okay. And how long have you worked with Sparta?
I would approximately, I think it's about 7 years I've been working as a consultant for Sparta. I was an interim township manager, charged with recruiting a manager at one point in time, which was Mr. Close. Then I was brought back as a public health consultant when the county actually absorbed certain local health departments in terms of promoting transparent and accountable government in terms of county services. So I've been, I know the personnel very well. So I feel one of the benefits that I have in this process is that I have a sense for the chemistry of the people that work for the town. And so it gives me a little more insight to somebody that might not have that experience.
And I would just say, I think that is what probably, we considered not only you, but some other possible search firms. And I think what at least sold me was your experience with Sparta. And I did pick up on what you said, that chemistry is very important. For any manager, the ability to get along with the people whom you lead is very important. And because you have that kind of knowledge about the personnel here, I feel more comfortable with someone with your background being able to help vet and find a manager who can get along with our personnel. We have an excellent staff. We have, wonderful employees. And I think it's incumbent on us to pick someone who can be as good as the people they lead. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate meeting everybody in person. It's a pleasure. And I have to say, I have a fondness for Sparta. I didn't know much about Sparta except when I would drive through the town prior to 7 years ago. And after working in the town and meeting the people and working with the government and the employees, it's been my pleasure. So I'm looking forward to working with the staff.
Excellent. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, Steve.
Thank you.
Also, for unfinished business, we had an environmental commission appointment, which I will table for now. Under new business, does anyone have any new business? I'll start with Councilwoman Quinn.
Other than what's going on in Salute 07871, no. Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Clark?
No new business.
Thank you. Councilman Blumeti?
Yeah, just wanted to ask about the green building lights in honor of Earth Day, what the plan is for that in terms of the dates?
We spend any time on that, Mike?
Okay. I guess I was thinking Mike's suggestion would be Monday through Monday, like the 17th through the 24th. I know the middle school is doing events all week in terms of Earth Day, and so I was thinking if we could have the green lights during that week and then through the Earth Day weekend, if that would be possible, that would I suggest.
Why don't you do blue and green? Both water and land, right? Blue and green? Or do you want only green?
I think only green,
Only green?
yeah. Yeah, I think traditionally that's, well, I don't know what's been done in the past, I forget actually. We can fine tune that, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
For myself, I have a couple new things under new business. Number one, we do have a state plan endorsement committee to staff. And so I will, these are mayoral appointments, I've been advised, and so I will reconstitute the committee with 5 new members. They are from the council representative, Dean Blumeti, Councilman Blumeti. The Class 4 Planning Board member will be Ron Day. The member of a local board, commission, or committee will be Neil Sauerwein. And the 2 members of the public will be Barbara Gomes and Kathy Ebikuzen. And so I think the planning board attorney has, and the town planner has some activities already planned for this committee. And so I look forward to this committee doing some good stuff for us. I did receive a request to join in I guess a request to reform our liquor license, the state liquor license laws, to sign on to a letter from all the mayors to the town, to the governor. I forwarded that to Councilwoman Quinn because I think it would be appropriate to have the Municipal Alliance Committee weigh in on that. That was done about a week or 2 ago.
Yeah, I forwarded it out to the entire alliance, everyone through email. And when we have our next meeting, what I did was I sent it out to everyone. I asked everybody to review it and come prepared to our next meeting. But really, this is the perfect thing that should be going to the EDC for their approval. You know, we should be getting input from that side as well, from the local businesses, because ultimately, this legislation has a huge effect on businesses. One of the big things, I mean, I know a lot of places now have adapted to kind of a BYO if they don't get a license, but I think that this is also something, a good purpose. And we should also probably reach out to Tammy Horsfield and get her opinion also as the Sussex County Economic Development Partnership President to find out how it affects the county as a whole. So anytime we're looking at legislation like this, it's important that we understand the effects in our town, but it's also important that we understand the effects as it rolls out and the bigger picture. So I think I am going to address it with the Municipal Alliance Committee when we meet, but I think also you should reach out to Tammy and get her feedback, or I will reach out to Tammy and get her feedback and bring it back to the Alliance group. Why don't we do that? I'll reach out to Tammy, get her feedback, bring it back to the Alliance team, and then put one letter together for the council based on feedback.
Okay, I see those, and thank you. And we did talk about that a little bit by email. I do see those almost in conflict with each other because the letter that I was asked to sign on to did state that the purpose was to increase access to alcohol, which I thought was a very odd way to word things. And And I would, again, think that would be part of the domain of the Municipal Alliance Committee to weigh in on whether that is a good thing for our community. Whereas the business community might think it would be a good thing because it sells alcohol. I think that both of those committees should weigh in.
But it has nothing to do with the age or anything like that. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just how many are going to be able to either accommodate more people going in and buying alcohol at a restaurant or place. Like I said, a lot of other restaurants now, most of them to adopt have gone to a BYO, model anyway. Less liability. But I'll reach out to Tammy, and we'll get back to you after the next meeting.
Excellent, thank you. I'd also like to share with the public that the Glen Lake Dam Assessment Report is now available to the public. So if you're interested in that report, you may request that from the clerk. I believe a presentation or formal adoption of that from the council will be at a later meeting, maybe even the next meeting, is my understanding. But the report itself is complete and available to the public for inspection. We did receive notification from the clerk that there have been several requests for food trucks, mobile food trucks in town. We're coming up on the summer, and we did visit this ordinance back in 2021. At the time it was tabled, and I think it might be time to dust that off to see if there might be some changes that we might be interested in at this time. So look forward to revisiting that food truck ordinance sometime in the next couple of meetings. I mentioned this last year after I had attended a seminar with the New Jersey League of Municipalities meeting on the future of fire and EMS, and I had proposed at the time, or suggested at the time, that we commission a group to study what the future and fire of the fire department and EMS might look like in Sparta. There are across the state, those organizations are going through some changes. There are dwindling enrollment in both of those organizations that are hitting hard in some communities, and some communities are turning to several different means of trying to cope with not having someone answer the bell when the bell rings. And we might be in a good position now, but I'm looking forward 10 years from now that if the trends continue, we might have a problem. So I'd like to see if we can form some kind of a committee to study that and I'll be looking forward to try to visit that in the next meeting or two to try to figure out what that study might look like and what kind of output might be, and we'll see where the group takes that. And that is all I had for new business. At this time, I'd like to open up to the public for anything that is on your mind.
Yes, hi, I'm Tom Eisenberg. Do I get sworn in to the usual thing, or no?
No, just you have to name and address.
Okay.
You're halfway
I know
there.
it's been like real official with the lawyer sitting
Yeah.
there.
That's okay.
Tom Eisenberg, 128 Sussex Mills
Tell us
Road,
what's on your mind.
Sparta. I was away for 6 weeks selling my family home in Passaic. It's done. My dog had surgery today, just teeth, so I'm in and out here. But I've missed the discussion on the flag ordinance, and I realize the train maybe has left the station and you've gone through 20 iterations and all. And my understanding is the old ordinance, right, before the council change, was it could be American flag and the veterans flag. Is that correct?
In the state of New Jersey.
Okay, in the state of New Jersey. And now the council wants to change it to allow all sorts of other flags. I think it's a bad idea. I think the ordinance should stay exactly as it is. I know.
Well, just to correct you, there is no is. That ordinance that you referenced was never adopted.
So who decides what flag goes up right now?
So there are state guidelines around flags. There's also, that we could adopt, that we could go to. This came up last year in December because there were other municipalities that did not have ordinances in place around it. And as a result of that, they innocently said, okay, put up the, let's just say the green flag, right? We're going to put up this organization's green flag. They didn't think there was any harm or foul.
Who's they?
So it was Boston, well, there were a couple different municipalities. So Boston was one place where I'll reference. Because the name of the organization is not coming to me, but what happened was because they had no ordinance in place, it was very subjective. So what they did was they took a request, they put up a flag. The next week, another request came in. They said, no, we're not putting it up. They got sued, they lost. This happened in various different cities around, so to your point. So what happened was at the end of December, based on this, we decided it would be the prudent thing to do to protect our community and the taxpayers to adhere to basically the guidelines set forth by the state saying, hey, the American flag, the POW flag, the New Jersey flag, we put up an ordinance. That was the ordinance that you're referring to that said these are the only 3 flags on municipal flag posts. And that ordinance did not make it through. So now fast forward to this year, what you saw tonight in that ordinance, this is, I think, the 5th iteration of that ordinance. I don't know how many hours we've spent on it, but that is what you've seen now. So now we're coming forward, well, not we, but the council tonight approved government speech on the flagpoles. And so what you saw tonight, there was no changes made to what you saw tonight. That is what was
It's already
introduced.
been adopted, the new ordinance?
It has been introduced.
Right.
It will
hasn't
be
been-
adopted, it will be up for adoption and hearing at our next meeting, the last meeting in April.
Okay. I kind of like the New Jersey rule, the American flag, the veterans, and the state of New Jersey. I know we're trying to be inclusive and, put up the green flag and the gay flag and flag for Israel or Saudi Arabia or whatever happens, but that's actually exclusive because there are people in town who may not like that. If everyone in town can agree on the American flag, the veterans flag, and state of New Jersey. I mean, if they can't, they're not really a citizen. And even if they do object to the American flag, it's a huge minority, But you start putting up other flags, you're going to offend people. And it's just a bad idea. Why do that? Especially, and I realize, you've been on this for 3 months or whatever, and no one wants to hear more about it. But it's just my personal opinion. Just leave it as it is. Why cause problems? Why cause trouble? Just because you have the power, you don't have to use it, And I don't know all the details with the new ordinance and what's proposed and all, but it sounds like it's going to be a constant fight about put up this flag, that flag. Now, the gay flag, the Unitarian all-inclusive flag, pride flag that was stolen from the church, that was a crime, that was tragedy. And the Sparta police should be on it, maybe the FBI if it's a hate crime. I don't know if they caught those guys or not. Just because that happened, we don't have to show support with the flagpole as a city. Also, aren't there like banners or something, little ribbons and other ways to express support perhaps for other groups? But honestly, I think as Commissioner Quinn says, it's not a change, it's like the new ordinance. I think doing anything other than those 3 main flags is actually exclusive and could cause problems, and I'm not even thinking about lawsuits. So I know the last thing you guys want to do is withdraw it, and you go with the one in December. It's just my personal opinion. So thank you for listening to that.
I can give you a slightly different history of that. So back in, was either late April, early May, members of the public, this is last year, had requested that we fly the pride flag. And the motion was discussed, and at the time, Councilwoman Wildsmith had made a motion to do that. At the time, our attorney Ryan had suggested that because of the problems that other municipalities had, that some of them Councilwoman Quinn alluded to, that we cannot fly a flag without having a structure to fly a flag, and that structure is a policy. And that's why the city of Boston got into trouble, because they would fly commemorative flags without a policy for flying a commemorative flag. And when they decided to not honor someone's request for a flag, the courts decided that you had no structure for this, and that's why you got into trouble. And please correct me if I'm wrong on any of that part with the Boston case.
No, that's essentially, that's correct. I think both Councilwoman Quinn and your summary are accurate.
So continuing with that, so at the time, we wanted to adopt the flag policy, and so Councilwoman Quinn got Councilwoman Quinn,
Councilwoman
sorry, I
Quinn.
misspoke.
Please.
Sorry if I said
Councilwoman
council.
Wildsmith, I meant to say, Councilwoman Wildsmith received or solicited a municipality that had a flag policy to use that as a starting point. And that was submitted to the attorney, and the attorney modified that to be introduced. And then, so this happened in May of last year. And then in May of last year, that, as you know, or maybe you might not know, that policy was never introduced, or that ordinance was never introduced, because at the same time, the council also crafted a second ordinance that was much more restrictive, that had only the three flags that you mentioned. And so none of those were introduced at the time, and so the motion was never brought to the floor until December, the first meeting in December, when that second the second policy of the restrictive, only those three flags, and that was it, was adopted, was introduced in December. There was no second meeting in December, so the policy was never adopted. And so when the legislative session last year ended, the slate was wiped clean. And so in February, we introduced the original ordinance that was modeled after I think it was this City of Asbury Park, I believe. And so that was sort of brought to the table almost verbatim. I think it was verbatim. And then, as we noted, we marked this up. This is the third time now we marked it up. And so we have open deliberative parliamentary process of debate. And so we read it and we introduced changes, and some changes we adopted and some changes we didn't. So that's where we ended up today of the third iteration of this. And this will go to a formal adoption at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's probably much more history than you wanted to know.
I think you're leaving out a big part, though, Dan, because we also, years ago, invested a huge amount of money, well, a large amount of money in installing the lights in front of Town Hall. And our feeling was we wanted to be inclusive. We wanted to be able to celebrate different organizations, groups, events, holidays, different things of that nature with the community. We never even thought, really, the flags was never really thought about years ago, right? I mean, it was, these are the flags, that's, and so we went above and beyond what we thought a lot of other municipalities had done, which is to install the colored lights in the front, so that for any kind of holiday, any kind of celebration, we implemented a ribbon program, so up and down Main Street, and then we light Town Hall. And we've actually, for the past 2 years, in addition to all the, the different things that we've done, we've also fully supported the LGBTQ community with flags or the ribbons up and down the Main Street on all the different flagpoles and the posts, as well as lighting up Town Hall in all the colors. Now, we do the same thing. So, for example, at Christmas, you'll see the Christmas colors and Christmas ribbons. Kelly was just here. She does Donate for Life. So that has been what we have in place to celebrate different events and such. And, so we have done that. And I just want to make sure that, you understand that that has been what we do. If you go outside, they're green. I don't know if you were here in the beginning of the meeting, but they're lit up green to celebrate Donate for Life. They'll remain green to celebrate Earth Day coming up next week. So check out the lights in the front. And next week, you'll see all the bows, if they're not up there now, for Donate Life. That is the policy that we followed for celebrating anything, any type of celebrations or organizations.
Right, which was beautiful, and there is all that, but let's not so much respect the flag per se, but respect the flag pole, and don't be exclusive. I mean, we need on the council, I think, comity going forward, and Neil will know what that means, the legal term. And getting together and moving forward. You know, there was this big problem with the you-know-what, it that shall not be named, the warehouse, and that's a continuing brouhaha, for sure. Luckily, the zoning was changed, so it won't happen again, right? Just 175,000 square feet going forward. But going forward, doing what's best for Sparta, we all should be working for that goal and have not so much friendship per se, but not conflict on the council and other committees. Other towns see it, it's bad, you know, and this flag thing is an example. It's a minor thing, this flag thing, you know what I mean? Why spend so much time and have fights over it? Just leave it, you know, with the 3 flags, the New Jersey policy, move on to other stuff, getting businesses to Sparta. And I know that's the Economic Development Committee, which we'll get to, or you'll get to, and maybe I'll have a few comments. Have employees been leaving Sparta employment, like at City Hall?
I would have to defer to the town manager.
Sir?
Some have from different departments.
Why? Is there a reason, like they're just getting old, or they don't like what's happening, or? Well, but I guess I've been hearing perhaps that Sparta, with the new town council and the split and everything, although it's 3-2, so it's not a split per se, is getting around and hurting Sparta's reputation among other businesses that might want to come to Sparta. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's bad. You know, all these, I read in the paper that there's all these children that the schools are overcrowded. And I don't have kids, but the schools are overcrowded, and we're going to need tons of money going forward. And I don't think the warehouse is the right way to do it, frankly. And I made my opinion on that clear. But we got to get started getting businesses to Sparta. And I think we need comity on the council and the planning board, and so that these businesses respect and come here.
All right, thank you.
But please reconsider the flag thing. I think it's exclusive in terms of, you know, group that doesn't get its flag up, or people who are offended or don't agree. And we all can agree on those 3 main flags. So, thank you.
And Tom, I would, knowing that you're a lawyer by training, I would recommend, if you have any, you know, doubts about this doctrine or what our basis for doing it, I would commend to you to read both the Shirtliff case that we've referred to, and then the Sunum case, which is 505 US 460. I think after you read that, I think that will probably allay a lot of the concerns that you have. And I think, as you know, Councilwoman Quinn gave through a litany of expression that the township has done. What we are doing simply is supplementing that expression, right? When we put a ribbon on the light pole that we own, that's an expression.
And
When we light up
government
the-
speech
the-
specifically.
Yeah, and when we light up Town Hall, that's a mode of expression. And, you know, so, and I'll just leave you probably with a, you know, quote from, you know, not someone who is, you know, a bastion of liberalism, which is Justice Scalia. What he said was, it is the very business of government to favor and disfavor points of view. So the fact that some people may get offended about what government does, that's what democracy is. And, you know, the recourse for that is to do what you're doing today, to voice your concern, to tell us, but it's also to vote. If you don't like what we do, then you have, the remedy is at the ballot box. And it's not to try to, if government would cease to function, I think, if we were to always be worried that we may offend someone, because if you're worried about offending someone, you probably shouldn't run for office, because I can tell you, you're going to offend people, and you just have to do the best job that you can do. So thank you. I appreciate you expressing your concerns. I encourage other people to. I don't want the public ever to feel that they can't come up here and have a vigorous debate about whatever policy we're, you know, As, Mayor Chiarello likes to say, we want to show you how we make the sandwiches. We don't want to do it behind closed doors and look at it as a fait accompli when we come out here. We're going to show you what we think. And I think government functions best in the daylight. So thank you.
I agree in terms of the transparency, but it kind of was a one-issue election, and that's fine, but not everyone voted for different flags on the flagpole. I just think it's a bad idea, a bad move to mess around with that one thing. That's all. And you do need to be cognizant of who, you want to be as inclusive as possible. And that, the flagpole's a flagpole, it's a big thing, and it's big physically and in people's minds. And so I think that it's not like, well, we're going to put in, a new road and people don't like this road, just have to shove it. This is a symbolic thing. Beseech you to adopt what New Jersey has, and, we don't have to follow other cities. And then, like Commissionwoman Quinn said, Commissionerwoman Quinn? Councilwoman Quinn said that, there's a lot of other ways to express support for groups. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Your opinion. Todd Gillespie, East Shore Trail in Sparta. I have another statement that I'll read. I understand that the actual commentary on the flag ordinance will be at the next meeting, so I'll reserve that for the next meeting. But I did want to share a letter that the state commander of the Department of New Jersey Veteran of Foreign Affairs sent to PFLAG, our organization, and also to the town council. So, dear Mayor and Council, as a state commander, I would like to clarify the official position of the Veterans of Foreign Affairs on the LGBTQ flag issue in Sparta. One of the purposes listed within the VFW's congressional charter is to maintain and extend the institutions of American freedom. And as such, the VFW represents fighting for American rights, civil rights, and humanitarian impulses that have always guided our principles. Today, the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States reaffirms its commitment to that purpose by first recognizing that to end discrimination within our organization, it is not enough to be non-discriminatory. We must be proactive. The VFW's leadership is united in the pursuit of ending bias and discrimination while empowering our members and the greater veteran community towards this collective goal. Our leadership strongly condemns the desecration of any flag and is in full support of the proper public display of any flag that represents our nation's freedom or its people and communities. As the world's largest combat veterans organization, our membership ranks exemplify the best of America and represents the heart of today's VFW. We come from every race, every creed, every color, every gender, and sexual orientation. In battles around the world, we fought, bled, and died together for American freedom and values. And together, we will continue to fight here at home for all Americans. So I would strongly encourage the council to take these words to heart and to also take the words of the woman who was the lung and heart transplant, where she talked about Sparta being a community of warmth and inclusivity as we consider this ordinance. Thank you.
And I received a copy of that letter and responded to Ken Hatcheman to thank him for that.
Pete Litchfield, 120 Conestoga Trail, Sparta. I'm one of the people that got that letter started. And the reason that was is a long time ago, there was talk about putting flags under the American flag. And then you decided that we would have the American flag, the POW flag. That's what I am here for, fighting for that POW flag. In my world, everybody is green. I have friends of mine that are still missing, And every day I look at that flag and I think of them. That's a very important flag. And thank you very much for putting that in your ordinance.
Thank you, Pete. Anyone else from the public?
Yes, I'm Joseph Wade. I hesitate to give my address because of certain people that hang with certain groups, but I will. 44 Sagamore Trail, Sparta, New Jersey. I'm remembering my friend Omar. He's a veteran. He was over in Iwo Jima, stationed over there. When he got back, we met and became friends in New York. And I think about him telling me the first time he was outed. He was standing there in formation. Somebody behind him came up and whispered, "I know your secret." That could have been a dishonorable discharge right there. Now, if you look at CBS News recently, we have a bunch of bad discharge that were given to people who were gay in the military, who were discharged simply because of their sexual orientation. Some of those people died in the closet. I don't think I need to say more. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to also say, and we got into this at the last meeting as well, if you read this ordinance, there is nothing in this ordinance that says it is specific to one flag. I stood before this council, I have done this now, this is, I think, the fourth or fifth meeting that we've had these, because although I understand that some people are looking at this ordinance through the lens of one particular organization or focus or flag, the problem is that the way it's written, in my opinion anyway, it doesn't say that. And at the last meeting, what I said was, if that is ultimately the intent, I would be more comfortable in having an ordinance that said that, right? Because it's limiting, it doesn't expose us to all the flags that this encompasses. And my concern is, I fully understand everything that you're saying. I understand the challenge, and I understand it. And the issue is, we have to also be sure that we are not leaving ourselves open to other organizations that are going to come in here and try to get their flag up too. And when they cannot, we're going to get sued. It's going to start problems. These are my concerns. So again, I am urging every resident to look at the ordinance. It is very generic. It is not specific to one cause, one flag, one anything, and it is very subjective. So sitting on this side where I'm sitting anyway, I have to look at this ordinance. What happens when we're not here anymore? What happens when the next government people are here? What happens, how do we manage this properly to make sure that everyone is included? What happens to groups that don't have a flag? They just don't get represented on the flagpole? I mean, there's bigger pieces of this, to the gentleman's point about inclusivity and everything else as well. And again, the way that this ordinance is written is not specific just to one thing. So all I'm asking is for people to also keep that in mind when they're looking at the ordinance as well.
Councilwoman Quinn, if I may. I looked through the town ordinances trying to find what were the rules and regulations and processes for proclamations. I didn't see anything. What are the criteria for determining what constitutes a proclamation?
When we do a proclamation, usually we do the same, we've done in previous times the same ones over and over, but usually it'll be on the agenda. In the past, we actually had conversations amongst ourselves where an event would be coming up. I just made a recommendation via email to the council to say, hey, April is also Autism Month. It would be great if we could do a proclamation to celebrate that. So, I mean, in the past, what has been the actual process? I don't know what the process has been, other than the fact that it is discussed and a proclamation is put together.
But that would be a form of government speech, right?
A proclamation? A proclamation is something that we do to recognize. So I mean, I guess if you wanted to make that same argument, it's not hanging on a flagpole or in a park over where children are playing or across the street from the VFW, but yeah, that we give out proclamations here to recognize, and we've done the same for the LGBTQ community as well.
Absolutely.
100%.
But there's a certain set of criteria, there's a certain judgment that the town council applies in how they choose which proclamations to move forward with.
To really be honest with you, I don't think we have a formal process, and we never have. It's always been a recommendation by one of the members, and I've only been here 13 years. I've seen nothing. There is no formal process when putting together a proclamation. There never has been, ever.
So in those 13 years, do you think that bad proclamations have been made, and have you been sued by people who wanted to make other proclamations?
Proclamations? The only thing that we've done as far as proclamations are concerned, like you saw tonight, local organizations, or for example, we did Donate for Life. They also get the lights and the ribbons and whatnot. So, I mean, requests come in for those. Again, we don't really have a formal process for any of that.
So I'm confused as a citizen.
So if someone else wanted a proclamation, they could, I'm assuming, email the mayor and say, hey, what about this organization? We'd love to have a proclamation, and then we'd have, I guess, a discussion about it and write a proclamation if that was something that was, if that was something that was warranted. Or for Boy Scouts, for example, we'll do proclamations and actually go to their events and give the proclamation to them at their event if they request one. And same for Girl Scouts.
I can say that the title of the proclamation, the very first line says from the office of the mayor. I assume that that means that it's the mayor's discretion to issue the proclamation. Now, whether or not the mayor works in concert with the council is of course, that happens, but is that an accurate way to read that?
If the proclamation says from the office of the mayor, then yes. But I think what the township has done in the past is, I believe there have been other proclamations that have been worded differently, but yeah, the plain reading of what you just described is from the office of the mayor.
And again, we do collaborate on this, and the Donate Life was a recommendation from Councilwoman Quinn.
To be clear, I think it's great, and I think it's very inclusive, along with all of the other recognition symbols and so forth. And I think what the ordinance is putting in place is yet another similar type of structure, in fact, even more clearly documented than perhaps some of the other processes that are already in place to help recognize and be inclusive for our citizenry. So, thank you.
Mr. Ryan, you would probably know, has Sparta ever been sued for any type of proclamation or any mode of expression that they've made?
Not in my experience, not while I've been in this position. We have not been sued.
So as we said a couple of times, this is really no different than allowing ribbons to put on public property, than putting lights up on the lighting up the columns, then issuing proclamations. These are all expressions of government speech, and putting a colorful cloth on a flagpole is really no different than that. I guess the difference is, as the gentlemen have stated here, that there is more, it's a more powerful symbol when you put something up on a flagpole, and so that raises emotions. And for those reasons, we want to be careful of having a nice policy framework to do that.
Yeah, and thank you for your questions. I think that what your
They're very good questions.
Elicited and illuminated was that actually this ordinance is actually much more specific than any other. Apparently, our proclamation is, subjective. There's no it's still somewhat subjective. I don't want to say ad hoc, but if you compare the lack of criteria for a proclamation to what we've actually done with the flag ordinance, it's much more laid out. It's very specific. As I've said before, this was not created out of whole cloth. This was based on legal research. This was patterned. Part of the language in here was taken from an ordinance that was actually cited by the Supreme Court in the Boston case. as a favorable way to how you should draft flag ordinances. So it is, I join Councilwoman Quinn in encouraging people to take a look at the ordinance, also read up on, the Boston case, the Sunum case, other cases that involve government, having a form of expression. And I encourage them to come in 2 weeks, and please, both sides, tell us you're in favor of it, you're against it, and tell us why. We want to hear it. And thank you.
I'll be back.
All right.
Okay, anything else from the public?
Good evening. My name is Zoe Heath. I live over in Hamburg, so thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening. And I come representing Sussex County Pride. It is the first LGBTQ plus advocacy organization in this county, and we host the annual Pride Rally every year. I understand this ordinance is for all groups, all walks of life, but given the LGBTQ plus community is probably the most publicized to have asked for a flag, my remarks will focus there. Thank you. Considering you've spent 3 months talking about it, just shows dedication and passion that other towns in this county have not shown. The LGBTQ plus pride flag specifically has not been flown on any municipal property. The only other place that has displayed it on a flagpole was Vernon Township Schools this past year. Other towns have issued proclamations or done ribbons or lights or things, which are all great, but the flag is what really is really special to our community. It has been with our community since Stonewall and is very, very important to us. And I'm so sympathetic to concerns because we do want to do this right. We do want to make sure it's safe for the council and everyone around, and we never want to invite things that will inadvertently harm the town or people who live here, but LGBTQ plus people in Sparta have already been under attack. Their property has already been vandalized. People have already been in fear because of this. And the best thing for a leadership body, a governing body to do is stand with us. So I know that this ordinance is for a lot of different organizations, but I think the discussion definitely came out of some of us coming to meetings. So I thank you for taking the time to do it right and considering it, and see you next meeting.
Thank you, Zoe.
Jenny Derricks, Tap into Sparta. I have a couple budget questions. Okay, Sam. I still want to come and have our usual conversation. In the budget, though, is there any funding for a master plan review for the planning board?
Basically, when they come up with money for that, that would be something that would be done as a special emergency. So we would require a special resolution to actually put the funding in place.
So they have to ask for it because at the last planning board meeting, the chair indicated that they want to do a master plan review, but they were constrained by lack of funds. Similarly, they were looking to do a review of a certain
Basically,
zone, and
the
they,
chair would have to get a hold of the chief financial officer and with the manager, we would be able to do a resolution
okay.
and put the, put
Does
the
she know
funding in
that,
place.
Dean? Maybe you could help her with that.
Yeah, a little more clarity on that. So we've discussed the possibility of doing a master plan review as well, and it is a separate process from this budget. My understanding is we just need to put together what the scope of it would be and what the estimates would be, and then that funding would come from a different mechanism, and it's kind of borrowing from yourself, paying back from yourself over a number of years to
Okay.
fund that, but that is.
Basically, a special emergency like that would be, that we would be able to extend the funding over a 5-year period.
Okay.
So if it were $100,000, we'd have to raise $20,000 in each year's budget
Okay.
to pay that off until it was complete.
Seems like she needs some assistance with that.
And there is funding, short-term funding in for the other subcommittee work that's been happening.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Engineering, I'm not going to go line by line, we'll have that meeting separately. I appreciate that. Engineering, though, increase of 335%.
Basically, what we're looking at is recreating an engineering department.
Okay.
We had used
That makes
outside
sense.
professionals for the
But it,
past couple of years. We're trying to bring the engineering department back on in-house, full staff with probably a part-time assistant engineer and a full-time engineering staff.
Because this money that you have budgeted is even less than what was paid out to a contractor, but that, I guess, I'm assuming that was from a different line.
Yes.
And the school board is indicating at least 8% increase at their last budget meeting.
I've sort of heard that. I usually don't do that until I actually get the A4F form from the school board that actually tells what the budget is. Rather than putting numbers out there that are incorrect, I'd rather just.
Just remember, 17% of your tax dollar will stay flat this year.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Wow, it's only 10 o'clock. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I didn't hear any opposed, so consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Another night at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.